Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another meeting of the Research Triangle PowerShell user group. My name is Mike Kanakis, and on behalf of my co-host, Phil Bossman, we welcome you here tonight. Phil, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
We are going to be talking about using PowerShell to automate your logging. And so we want to encourage everybody to use blogs or even share their knowledge with the world. And this is a great avenue for it. And so I reached out to Alain, and I knew that he was doing a bunch of um, blogging or basically sharing stuff on the web. And then we had a conversation and said, hey, yeah, I use PowerShell. You get some APIs, and I work with a bunch of stuff, and I converted a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, this is a great topic that we want to talk about.
Well,
And so,
why don't we introduce Alain since nobody on the meeting has met him yet? Okay. Recording. So, who is our guest speaker tonight?
our guest speaker is Alain Assaf.
Okay, and so Alain does not have his monitor, his camera shared, so nobody can see who the gentleman is.
No, you
But I assure you, there is a person sitting next to Phil who's going to do a presentation tonight. Alain. And so maybe a good takeaway from what Phil said was we're going to explore some ways that you use PowerShell in ways that may not be obvious for everyday programming. And in this case, Alain is using it to automate the daily maintenance and publishing of your blog, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we can turn it over to you, Alain. If you could, why don't you tell our attendees at home a little bit about yourself and how you get started in the blogging world and PowerShell?
Well, okay, that kind of happened almost at the same time. Now that I think back, because back in, gosh, 2006, 2007, I was working at the CDC in Atlanta as a contractor, and we had a really great group of people with lots of really diverse technical backgrounds working. And there are certain people on the team who are definitely farther ahead than I felt I was at the time, and I thought I need to I need to step up. I need to learn. One of the guys was using something called PowerShell. I was like, what the heck is that? So I thought, and at the time, he was the only person who was doing it, and he's writing all this code, managing a Citrix environment for the CDC, which you can imagine was an important and is an important uh, service that the CDC provides worldwide for foreign health departments, everybody. So I thought, well, I want to learn PowerShell because what if that guy gets hit by a bus? Then what are we going to do? So, or more likely, he leaves to go to another job. So I started learning PowerShell, and I really got into it. I thought it was really great. At the time, being a Citrix administrator, Citrix had um, they had fairly rudimentary commandlets for uh, what they called XenApp 5 at the time. So but I mean, they were there. So I was able to, pull data, create reports, do things with users, do things with servers. So it was just great. So I was just learning and learning and learning. And at some point, I thought, well, I'm doing some cool stuff and I'm writing documentation. I thought, why don't I just take this documentation and kind of massage it a little bit, sanitize it, and start writing about it. And so I picked WordPress. Wait, there. So I went to WordPress and created a blog called Wag the Reel because I thought it was clever. Um, Instead of wagging the dog, virtualization's wagging the reel. It's really deep back. Bet if any young people are on, blogging is what happened before podcasts and before Instagram and before TikTok. That's how people express themselves democratically on the internet. You could put you literally could put anything out there pretty much. There wasn't a lot of censorship or monitoring of what was going on the internet back in the early days. So basically, it's going to be an overview of my history as a blogger, and then the tools that I used to accomplish that, with the latest iteration being mostly what we're going to focus on tonight. Anyway, so years go by, change jobs, multiple jobs, and of course, just like I roll over my 401k to the next job, I take all my scripts with me, um, And so by 2017, I had just a huge library of just scripts and functions and commandlets, just everything that I've written over the years. And I never throw away anything because I'm always like, I'll remember. Wait, I did this sort of thing a few months ago or last year or whatever. And what's real fun is when people I work with go out and search because I'm like, how do we do this? And they'll go find one of my blog posts that you did it 3, 4 years ago right here. I'm like, well, the internet works though. So yeah. So and I think it was partially one of the PowerShell user group meetings or several of them where you guys were talking about Git, and we did that great demo. Mike, I think you drove it where we all would contribute to a repo. I mean,
That site's still out there.
it is out there, and it was great, and because I had this strong desire to kind of learn because I've been doing lots of coding, and of course, when you're dealing with opening files, saving files, it's hard to do version control unless you're copying and creating new files all the time. So I thought, well, there's got to be a better way, and Git was the way that I chose to kind of learn how to do source control and versioning and branching and all that great stuff. So watching a couple of videos from the PowerShell user group, and just me on my own, forcing myself to use it on a fairly daily basis. I just got to use Git and do repos and use the local Git server at our work, but also taking scripts that again I would obviously sanitize and remove any proprietary information and put them up on GitHub. So that was going great, and then that really just led me down the path of because I can't remember exactly when they introduced it, but at one point GitHub introduced GitHub Pages, which again, static website. It's doesn't have it's at this time doesn't have all these these weird vulnerabilities that were hitting WordPress sites and things like that. So I thought, well, I'm doing Git. I understand sort of. I've written some stuff in Markdown with READMEs and stuff. So I thought, what the heck? Why don't I just convert over to GitHub Pages? And that's what led me to start my site. See here. This is the first site I created on GitHub Pages. It's a Jekyll site, like most GitHub pages are all Jekyll, using one of the more well. Anyway, I like this theme. It was nice. It was clean, and I called it Power EUC Shell because I thought I like PowerShell and I do end user computing. So I thought, what's the most strangest website I can come up with that name, and that's what I came up. So I had oh, and so I wanted to develop locally. That was the other advantage of using GitHub Pages. I wanted to develop locally. So I thought, well, I know I have Windows Linux subsystem. So I went through the rigmarole of searching and searching and searching and going through multiple tutorials because for some reason, it seems especially with Linux, and since there's so many flavors of Linux and so many ways to do stuff in Linux, nothing ever works. When that thing was written, that was like a point in time that we'll never get to again. And trying to reproduce it never worked. So that was really frustrating. But I finally got it to work. I was so happy, like, oh, this is awesome. I can, I can run on my Jekyll site locally. I can do editing, and it works. I can look at my site before I have to upload it to GitHub Pages, and it worked great. And then, of course, I don't know what happened. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if I did an upgrade. Something got corrupted, and it basically lost the whole shebang. I'm like, oh crap. And then I thought, do I really want to go through the rigmarole, reloading Windows, Linux subsystem, getting all the installs, getting Ruby installed, all this stuff? And I thought, no, I don't want to do that again. And at the time, I knew about Docker, and I thought, well, Docker would be a great way to do this because it's, a lot simpler. There's already pre-built stuff to a certain extent, and it's very easy to just recreate. You can just destroy everything and recreate it as long as your Docker file is written correctly. So that's what I started to do. I rebuilt the site. I used Docker to create a new local site, so I can keep doing local development, and that's what I've been using since then. It's my next page. Oh yeah. So then I decided to not only redo my site, but I did an upgrade of the theme, and I just decided to brand it with my name instead of just another random set of words, because I figured I was had a well established community name. Was active on LinkedIn. I thought, why don't I just use my name instead of some random stuff? So because I'd seen a lot of people I follow in the EUC space also do the same thing. And I thought, well, even though my name looks weird, I can still do alainassaf.com, and people will hopefully remember how to get there. So one thing I wanted to point out, uh, if you want to do this yourself, there's a guy on YouTube called Bill Raymond. He does really great step-by-step tutorials on exactly how to do this. If you want to do any sort of development locally on your system, he's writes stuff about Docker. He writes stuff about VS Code. So I have a link here in the presentation that's the latest one I followed to get everything set up. And he uses Ubuntu in this case, a Ubuntu container to do it. So yeah, can't recommend him enough. Very clear, great documentation. So I recreated the site, or I created a new site, and then I decided, why not pile on my frustration and take all my old WordPress blogs and move them over? And I know there are tools out there to do this, but those tools typically are oriented towards someone if you're hosting your own WordPress site, not if you're using WordPress.com, which I was doing. So, it's just a matter of exporting everything and pulling it in and, doing some cutting and pasting and everything. And so I've gotten almost all my posts moved over, all the ones that I want to move over. So they're all on the new site, which is great because it has a library I can search, and tags everything else. So now that I have the new site and I've got all my content over, I was thinking, how can I make this really seamless? Or how can I make this as easy as possible? So I've known about Plaster. I don't know how many people are familiar with Plaster, but Plaster is it's a template-based PowerShell module. Well, it's a PowerShell module that uses an XML template to do to create basically a template, and the template can be almost within reason as long as it's on a file system. So you can create folders, you can create files. There are a couple of people in the blogosphere, whatever you want to call it these days, who've written really great tutorials about how they use it to create modules and all the things that go with it. So they can take a module, they can send it up to GitHub Pages, they can run it through AppVeyor, upload it to the gallery, and just all one thing. It's really fantastic. I didn't want anything quite that complicated, but I definitely use their sites to help me get there, because unfortunately Plaster is not it's not really currently maintained. It was developed by Microsoft, and Microsoft handed over to PowerShell.org, and it's kind of sit kind of idle for a couple of years, but it's still very useful. You can still definitely use it to do a lot of stuff. So, and here are the tutorials that I've referenced, and that I use to create my stuff. So I'm going to now do live, and we're going to go over, look at the Plaster XML file that I created, the manifest file that I created. Here it is. All right. So hopefully this is visible enough. I can make it bigger if we need to. Or is this contrast good enough? I don't know. Everyone's got a different. You're seeing that. Yeah, that's hilarious. Let's move this over here. Now we're talking. All right, great. So that looks. Hopefully everyone can see that. That makes sense. So you create a manifest, and you can create the manifest using a Plaster commandlet to at least get a framework in. But then I had to go in and write, create my own things for my particular needs. So this is the name of the manifest is blog post. And then you set this metadata in here, title, description, author, all, and then you use parameters. So the parameters will prompt you. You can have the parameters prompt you, and it can make decisions based on your prompts. So obviously title would be the title of my blog post. And then I have a parameter that's a choice if I wanted to include a subtitle in my blog post, because the Jekyll templates, they have a place for a subtitle. So I just was trying to If I wanted just the option, it was there, so I wouldn't have to go in after the fact and add it. So the next other parameters are, and some of this stuff comes from like the title comes from the first parameter that I entered up here. The title, where is it? I just lost it. Sorry. Title here, sorry. So when I type in the title, it uses that parameter down here in this section to actually create the name of the file for the blog right here. So it'll this so I put in the name. So as long and I can put blah blah space blah blah. It'll go ahead and replace it. It'll replace the spaces with dashes and make everything lowercase, and you just get it ready to fit the format of the blog, the way the Jekyll blog site expects it to be. You can add tags, of course, and a publish date, and then this is my destination. So my local Jekyll development site has a drafts folder. So again, this is another handy thing that I can use within the template of the Jekyll site template, because you can drop stuff in drafts, and even if I decide I'm gonna sync up with GitHub Pages, it won't publish anything in the drafts folder. So I can just keep working on stuff without messing up anything else. So this creates here's the blog file name for MD for Markdown, because it's all in Markdown. And then this creates a folder for images, because it's not necessarily, I won't necessarily have a lot of images in every blog post, but I definitely like to have at least a cover image, just a big image for every blog post. And we'll get to that part next. And so that's kind of it. And I did not intend this to be a Plaster specific tutorial. I'd really recommend those links, and I'll share them so we can get them out to everybody to review that. If you want to look at using Plaster yourself to create whatever, I mean, it doesn't necessarily, obviously, doesn't have to be a blog. It could be a module, or it could be, I don't know, a way to create a bunch of lottery ticket files or something, whatever you're fancy.
All right. So the idea here is, for those people who may not blog on a regular basis, most people that blog like to produce the content, don't necessarily want to have to do all the formatting of that
Right.
blog. And so the Plaster is essentially you're saying, if I follow a standardized format,
Right.
I can eliminate most of those things so that I can just pipe in my content, and the tool will do the work to format it so that I don't have to sit there and format
Right.
a post. And I can say, as a fellow blogger, as the least fun part of running a blog.
Yeah, because this prevents me from introducing any syntax errors, because if I wrote everything myself, invariably I'm going to put a dash in the wrong place, or something's going to go wrong. So that I'm glad you pointed out, because I want to emphasize this part here. So my blog file, or the template file, uses this blog post.asp file, which is which basically holds the syntax of the blog, the format. Is here. All right. So you can see this uses when you see plaster param, that's referencing the parameters that we set in the manifest file. And then, and this is the format of the Jekyll blog. So when you have 3 dashes, that's basically setting up your header for your blog, and you'll have title, subtitle, all the same stuff. It'll have the images, which is the other part of this, which we'll get to in a second. Creating the format for the images. And then I just have basically a table of content, and just blank heading, just ready to put stuff in. So that's the whole point. I have my footer down here. So yeah. So, and you can do that obviously with anything. It doesn't have to be a blog post. It can, if you do write modules, you could have your your module files as a template, and it will stick all that stuff in there. So again, you can be as creative as you want to be.
All right.
And so, being that this is a template, if people haven't picked it up at home, you suffer through the pain once or twice
Right.
to build the template out, so that every time you post, you don't have to go through this.
Every time,
A lot
right.
of it goes away for you.
Yeah.
And so you're just following syntax, not the syntax, you're just inputting the data that'll be sucked in to the post based on the template.
Yeah,
So
and then the template gives you the scaffolding you need to go
Right.
from there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So there's some work on the front end to build this, set it up the way you want, and then once it's set up, it's essentially rinse and repeat.
Yep.
Right?
Mhm.
Use the same template over and over again, and it makes my life easy.
Yep. That's the whole point.
There was a question in the chat that maybe some people at home might be wondering.
Oh,
What's an ASP file?
that is why did I pick ASP? You know what? I don't remember why. I don't know if it has to be ASP. I actually don't remember.
Is ASP related to IIS?
It's not active server pages now. It's
Right.
not related
Oh,
to the
it's not.
Microsoft thing.
Got it.
It's just I actually have to look that up. I don't remember if I picked that extension. It's supposed to be there. Honestly, don't recall. I think it is. I think it's supposed to be. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'll have to look
Well,
that up.
let's just say that that was part of
I'll get back to you on
the setup
Yes.
that you inherited when you chose the platform.
Yeah.
Right.
I probably saw it in an example and just Bobby didn't even think about it. I mean that's my guess. All right. Let's see here. Where's my big button? There we go. Okay. So that is that. Okay. So next. So the other part of this obviously is, having images and blogs is just makes it eye catching. I like throwing an image on there. And so one of the sites that I, researched because I wanted to find an easy way to get royalty free images so I don't have to worry about, you know, somebody coming after me because my blog, which makes some money, I don't really want to, get sued for it. So I looked at the Pixabay API and we can check out the Pixabay site. If you're not familiar, I mean, there's several sites that do this. Pixabay is just the one I picked because they had I could understand the API really. I mean, it wasn't really complicated. It was easy to adapt. So it just says right here, royalty free. Oh, I'm talking and you're not seeing it. There we go. Sorry. So this is just the site that I'm using. It says royalty free images, pictures, videos, just whatever. So any sort of thing that you'd want. It even has sound effects, which I found out, which is interesting. Um, and if you scroll to the bottom, you get to the API explanation here. So you do have to create an account. It doesn't cost anything. I mean, as long as you're not pulling thousands upon thousands of images every second, they don't really care. So you can create an account. You get an API key, which I throw into my the function that we'll go over in a second. And where's the actual info? Oh, sorry, right here. So this is the API that I read through this API and figured out, and here are the parameters. So I'm like, well, I understand parameters because I do so much PowerShell. So this makes a lot of sense to me. And we'll go over that when we look at this function. And I'm not using every single parameter. I mean, I'm just picking the minimum that I need to make a query and get an image back. And so here's an example that they wrote with doing an API call. So again, it was very easy to understand this, do some queries, and I got it working. So let me pull up that script. Find my whoops, there. So this is the function that I use, and we'll do a live demo and pray that it works. So this shows you the parameters I use. So the query is just a text string of I don't know, kittens in a field, whatever. It just can be anything. You can pick a category, which I hope everyone can read that. That's not too small.
That's okay. Good.
Right. And then you've got a color, and this is optional. You don't have to have a color, but if you want to, for some reason, I want a color that's a picture that's mostly whatever blue, you can add it there. There's my API key, which is obviously that's specific to you, so you'd have to create your own API key and put it in there. And so I'm using advanced parameters to kind of set a validate sets so I don't, again, try to make it foolproof. I don't want to guess like what is the what are the categories again, or what is the color, what colors do they pick. So that allows me to just make sure that's always going to be the same. And then depending on if I have a color or not, it just changes the splat variable that I'm sending to the API call. And it's that simple. So we got this, we got the body, which is is this parameter here, going to the API. And then here, invoke REST method. That's it. And so it comes back, or it fails because I picked some, I don't know, strange query that it couldn't find anything. So this is me parsing the query to make sure that, because typically it'll send 50 at a time. And obviously I don't care. I don't want to look through like 25 images to find the right image. I just keep querying and hope that I'll get it. So funny enough, I'm using get random to pick some image between the group of 50 and just grab one and look at it. So a nice tie-in that I didn't know we were going to do. So then I do get the image info, and just for, even though they don't require it with Pixabay, they say it'd be nice if you say it's from Pixabay and you say who the user is who submitted the photo. So that also comes back in the API call. So I'm grabbing that information and creating this Pixabay user URL. So if you clicked on it, you would go to the person who put the image. So it's just a page with them and all the stuff they've submitted. And that's the get Pixabay image. So let's see if we can get this to work. I already have that running.
Is your get Pixabay image on GitHub or anything like that?
There is a version of it. I'm going to upload all this stuff as part of the presentation,
Okay.
and I'll send it to Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. I did do that. I forget. Yes, it is. See, I do so much stuff and I forget.
Okay.
So yeah, it's there. I just got to figure out where I put my terminal. Oh, I didn't have one. Let's go to terminal. It's over here. Right. All right.
Make that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. Yeah, okay.
That's pretty good.
Okay. I need to dot source this sucker real quick. All right. Get Pixabay image and do a query of, I don't know, let's do something simple, computer, and we'll pick category of business, build business, and I don't know, color. I don't think beige is one of the colors. Let's pick gray. All right, and we'll do verbose because I love verbose. And it pulled it up on the other screen, and here is the image. So just do, again, when I do verbose, I get I get the file path, where it's going to go. I get the URL of the photo itself. I don't use it, I just grab it, and then there's the user URL. So I can click on this. I'll probably on the wrong screen too. Nope. And so this is the user who submitted that image. All right. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot I uploaded that.
I was
So yes, we'll try to share that. Okay, so now, so I have these two pieces. I got my plaster manifest working and creating what I want. I've got this function that grabs an image seamlessly. So now how do you put it together? So now I wrote a PowerShell script that basically calls these two functions to make this happen. So now we're going to go over that because I think that is it. Let's go back to this code. So here's the create blog post. Again, so obviously I'm calling some of the same parameters that I call to get the image. And I'm also getting the plaster information as basically a splatted variable. I don't know if that's the right term, but whatever, a splat variable. So same stuff. It goes down here, and almost same parameters that we had. I just have to add a path to the Pixabay function and the plaster variable that we got the other three things that we saw in the image query. And then I just do a bunch of error checking to make sure all the paths are right. Because knowing me, I'm going to move stuff around on my computer and I'm going to forget where stuff is. So I'd like to know ahead of time if I did. So just figure out where everything is or not, and it'll tell me. And so I type in a name, the plaster manifest will prompt me for a name, and I'll put in, or actually, I'm sorry, the plaster variable that I send will have the name of the blog. And then I can put in the parameters, the stuff to get the image. And this will just basically, what the rest of this does is, because plaster obviously isn't aware of the image, I have to use the wrapper script to take the image that was retrieved and put it in the folder that's relevant to where my blog is expected to be, and rename it. So that's the next part of this demo, which is gonna work. I know it will. So let's see here. Let me go back to VS Code. Come on, get it. Let's clear this out. Okay, so I need okay. So I'm going to. This is probably way too small now. Oop. So this is just something I have ahead of time. Come on, I thought there's a way to make this there. So I'm just going to take this variable and I'm going to paste it into terminal. So again, what this is going to be information specific for the plaster manifest. So the title of my blog, the template path, which you have to tell plaster where your template is, and this is the XML file we looked at here. That's the location of where the folder where this XML file resides. You have to tell it where it is. And then the destination path, this is the path to the local path to where I have my blog files. And I'm saying, yes, I want a subtitle. So that will change, it'll add this subtitle to the eventual blog post file. I put some tags here and then I get the date, which is, this format is the date that the Jekyll site is expecting. And it appends it to the beginning of the title for the file name. So it'll be date and the title of the blog post. So let's copy that. All right. Yes, paste anyway. So there we go. Now we got our plaster variable. And then we're going to create blog post. Plaster splat. Whoop. Plaster. Come on. And that's, oh, okay. And I'll just use this thing, artful plaster wall, buildings, and I didn't add a color. All right, so this wrapper script is now, I don't know how much it's gonna actually show on the screen, but we'll go in and find all the places. Oh, maybe I should do that ahead of time. Let me show you where I'm expecting it to go, and then we can figure out the rest. So what it's going to do there is, let me bring this over to the other side. So what's going to happen is, so this is my local. Oh, come on! Oh, it's so tiny. See if we can make this a little easier for some folks. All right. All right. So this is the local repository for my blog. And then what is going to happen is in the drafts folder, it's going to create a, the today's date automate-me.md. It's going to create that file. And then it will also, under assets, assets and image, it will create a folder under here that's just going to be automate-me, and inside that folder is the image that we're going to get from Pixabay. So now,
and so everything that you're detailing, this is sort of that's how the blog is built.
right,
You're just living within the requirements of how they organize
exactly,
the blog.
yeah, because it's going
So
to expect things to be in certain places.
Right. So essentially, he's creating a markdown file.
Yep.
The markdown file is going to store metadata in other locations. There's going to be an image. He has a place in his file structure for his images. There's a structure he has to follow for that. All those other pieces. What he's essentially doing is creating a giant markdown file with the
Yep.
the data he wants.
Exactly.
And then just script it, just kick those pieces off
Right,
and
right.
with some parameters to
Yeah.
give
And,
you
and
code.
this is eventually going to be a Git sync, I would assume, right? And then it's going to, once it goes up,
Yeah.
if it's not in the drafts folder, it'll publish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. It's going to say, so there's my name that was in the plaster splat variable that we sent.
So that's giving you the opportunity to override
You
it.
could change it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that. Okay, so it went through. Okay, so boom. So now see, I had an error. That's, of course, close this one. So what happened? So I tried to rename it.
But I like the fact that it just gave you. I really like the fact that, hey, you went through all that and it did some work. It actually went and got you the image that you were looking for, gives you an opportunity to then do something with it and go from there. And so it just automatically just gave you one. So I like that idea.
Well, yeah, that's why I like to do error checking.
No, but it's good.
So what happened? So let's see. Did we get our draft file? Let's see. We did. At least we got that part. Let's take a look at this.
Found an image, but then I think it couldn't open the image.
This will be legible.
Yep.
So yeah. So what happened? Okay. So it did find. So yeah, here's the post. So here's the ASP file was taken. The parameters were put in, and it created a markdown file. So there's the tags. There's the date. There's the title. This is the path to where the image should be. I didn't. That part messed up, but everything else is here for me to enter in to start writing my blog. So the only thing I'd have to do is just figure out what happened. So I don't know exactly. It might because I already had one open and it got confused because there were two.
Is it
files.
case insensitive? Maybe.
Is it what?
Is it case insensitive?
It's supposed to be. Yeah, I wrote it to make everything lowercase.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's maybe because no, that's not.
Yeah, when it's trying to access the plaster ASP file, I thought that was case insensitive.
If I can remember where I'm trying to go. Here. I think it might have been because I already had a JPEG and I might be looking. Let me look at my file. I think I might be looking at that. So how do I find? No, that's not the right thing. Here, how do we find the JPEG? Yeah. No, I wonder if it's because it found it might
Found
have
multiple
It found multiple. That's why, because I didn't clean up from the last time we did it down. So
All right. So then in this case, you just you can like select the first one.
I
select
just
the last
I
one,
need
whatever.
to just do another error check and say, is there more than one file? Hey, you better clean up before you run this again. So,
or just
just pick the first,
select the
latest
last one.
Yeah,
select the latest one, and whichever one it downloads, that's the last
That's
one.
easy enough to add. So there you go. So I tested this, and of course it worked, and then I didn't think, oh yeah, 2 files, but whatever. It always happens. So that I believe is it. So hopefully that was interesting. Anyway, so yeah, I'm hoping to use that method from now on to just get to the point where I could just start writing or just start putting stuff in, writing stuff out. So exactly. Now, what I want to do, and I don't know how long this will take, is since I can run this locally and we can look at it. If I can just let me do a little hack here and put the actual file that I want in there. Is the right one? Yeah, it's the right. Not both. Just this. So let me rename this to automation lead. And oh, come on, too much stuff. Everybody's on the edge of their seat. What happened to VS Code? See, 2 monitors is not enough. I need more than 2. I can't find anything. Here, Ellie. Oh wait, that's right. I opened it in Notepad. So it's supposed to be automation be done. Yes, okay. I just want to make sure that was done. All right. So let me go back here, copy you into assets. Here. No, that's not the right image.
Oh,
There
it's an
it is. Yeah, fine. It's not going to work. But what? Okay, so let me start up. Now this is going to be the fun part where we get to start Docker. So I'm going to open recent, go to this. You see, this is dev container. So I don't know how many people have messed with containers, but VS Code has support for Docker containers. When I open this, it should prompt me to say, "Hey, looks like it was last opened in a container. Do you want me to open in that container?" So it's already starting it. And I bring Docker over. You can see it is going to start up over here. That was too small. Fortunately, it's not super fast because my computer is a little long in the tooth, but it's okay. So now the container is running. Going. Okay, it is. Okay, it's done. So let me close this and open it. And then run this elaborate command to start the server. Unfortunately, this will take like 40 some seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you just launch Jekyll and
Yeah, it's
got to go regenerate all the.
exactly. It's the problem with static sites. It's not super fast. It's got to build everything. Waiting. Are there any chat messages? Oh, you did have trouble reading? Oh.
Oh, no, someone's talking back. So, other feedback is that you posted your API key into GitHub.
You're right. Yeah.
Well,
I know. I should hide that.
But yeah, I was pulling some images as you at first, and I'm like, oh, so just be aware. You need to go change. I would see if we can change your action.
Why have I been rate limited?
Yeah.
This was working.
All right. So now we got All right, site local here. And I need to go to the drafts. So let's look not that. No, that's not that. It's going to be 20. Let me just look at that. It's like that, yes. Here.
Is it going to be in the drafts folder or just the raw?
No, it'll just come up as a. There it goes. There's the image. There's our blog without any content. But hey, maybe I'll get content soon.
So if we basically set up that template that you said and
Yeah.
kind of work through some of that whole idea, you could go through this idea of even multiple different versions of a blog article. This was one template.
Yeah.
So I was thinking through of how you were working through that and going, hey, well, I want to do like a blog with some pictures in it, or like even like a how-to. Well, those would be kind of like different formatted.
Yeah.
And so I could use the same script or thing. I just don't have the parameter there. Just change some functions around.
Yeah, if your Jekyll theme supports different formats, you can definitely
Different
create
page sets.
Yeah,
Yeah, page templates and stuff like that.
absolutely.
Interesting. It's cool. It's a great idea. I appreciate the demonstration. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, at least one person.
Well, thank you very much, Alain. Alain. I was said it before.
A local area network, Alain.
Alain.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to remember.
Alain Assaf.
You don't even have to say the last name.
That's not a very common name.
No. There's only 3 of us that I found on LinkedIn all over the world. So,
All over the world.
well, at least all over the world in terms of LinkedIn.
Unique. Unique. So definitely cool.
So the takeaway here is that PowerShell can be used in some unique ways to do jobs that you might not have considered. Probably the thing you need to find is the repetition, and then you can build tools to help with the repetition.
Yep.
PowerShell is flexible enough to be able to meld itself to things that are not just infrastructure related, not just sysadmin, not just application development. So you can use PowerShell in some really unique ways. Here's an example how someone is using some PowerShell code and some modules to basically build the scaffolding to post to their website to take away the arduous part.
Yeah, I thought it was the interesting way of using Plaster to do that.
Yeah.
To use Plaster as that, and I never thought to do that. And I think somebody else mentioned in the chat a little bit ago. Did anybody else have any questions online? Somebody raised their hands earlier. Feel free to come off mic and talk. Well, I'm showing you how to raise a hand.
You can ask your question now.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. If you don't have any further questions, we certainly definitely do thank Alain for joining us and sharing with the group. Thank you so much. And join us next time, 2 weeks.
If you're watching at home, we appreciate you coming to join us. You can always join us in person by visiting meetup.com, searching for the Research Triangle PowerShell user group, or you can go to rtpsug.com. The benefit of joining us in person is you get to ask the questions and be part of the audience. We'd love to have you. If you've liked what you saw tonight, check out the rest of the content on our channel. We have about 125 videos, all related to PowerShell. There'll be something there for you. So check us out. We'll see you at the next one. Thanks everyone for coming. Have a great night.